Team Chaos Zero Nightmares first time limited character. Many of you may be asking yourselves, should you be pulling on Sereniel? What can you expect from this sort of character? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and if you've been here from the beginning, you know that we've had the knack for picking out the highest potential, most broken characters in this game, whether there's someone who's going to benefit from the most broken mechanics like card draw and AP generation, or someone who can provide breaking the mechanics of card draw and AP generation. And as someone who's played the game entirely free to play outside of buying the battle pass, or I give them the $10 that they're due, we haven't pulled on any of the new 5-star characters. But Sereniel, I think, is going to be that exception, because even at this time of recording where we don't have the full list of her epiphanies, she still is going to play with some of the best characters currently in the game. That's what we're going to be touching on today. Hopefully I can give you guys a little bit of a peek into the window right before they drop this character that we don't really know that much about outside of her base skills and who she's going to work pretty well with. So let's touch on this so you can get an expectation of what you can expect from Sereniel. She is basically going to be like a mix of like a Tressa Luke character, where she can generate a bunch of zero cost cards, which is, well, a very powerful thing for a DPS to do, making her work very well with the likes of Cassius, also with Nia. So let's check out some of these cards here. One of her base ones here, the homing laser, is going to do damage and do a buff called the Afterglow effect. So the Afterglow effect is going to be core to Sereniel's gameplay loop and structure. It's going to increase the tenacity damage that she does while she has this buff. But if the enemy's tenacity gauge is broken and they're in the ravage state, it's going to add a damage amount as well, which is great. You're either going to break tenacity and give AP to the team, or you're going to do bonus damage when you're ready to do a DPS burst window. That's already a fantastic buff to have access to. But more than that, if we take a look at all of the cards here, you'll notice that there are a couple of expensive cards like Cobalt Light and Pale Shooting Star, but really where she's going to be most busted is in her ability to create and use her homing lasers, which is, well, an amazing card. It's going to be a zero cost attack card, and this version that we got to see showcased in the little live stream that they did, a little showcase for Sereniel, is a zero cost attack card that does some damage, gives you Afterglow, and then on Ravage, it's going to move from the graveyard to your hand. Now, Homing Laser L is crazy. It's busted because it has Exhaust 2 on it, meaning that you can cast it one time, it'll go to the graveyard, and while they're sitting in there, once you ravage something, you can then return them back to your hand and then cast them again, and they all give the Afterglow buff, meaning that you're going to be able to tenacity break with this Homing Laser L card very easily, and then all of the subsequent Homing Laser Ls that you pull out of your graveyard are then going to keep benefiting from the Afterglow buff and just have that damage buff from the Afterglow buff instead of the tenacity damage buff. On top of that, her actual EP skill plays super well into all of this, because not only does it do big AoE damage, but it also is going to move all of your homing laser Ls from your exhaust pile back to your hand. So sort of like a Renoa EP skill, except instead of from graveyard to hand, it's from your exhaust pile, which is absolutely absurd, meaning that if you can generate EP, generate the homing laser Ls, you're going to get like triple use out of these. You're going to generate them, use them one time, they're going to return from the graveyard back to your hand, you're going to use them again, they're finally going to exhaust, and you can pop your EP skill, return them all back to your hand again, and then use them on top of that. So how are we generating homing laser Ls? Very easy. There's a shining core skill, costs 1 AP, and it generates 2 homing laser Ls. I think we saw a base epiphany for it in that video as well, which is this version of shining core that generates 3 homing laser Ls. So we can also expect for you to be able to do more broken things with divine blessings on this. You're gonna have a 1 cost card that generates 3 homing laser Ls, and then maybe draws you a card, or maybe it gives you an AP back. On top of that, there's gonna be even more epiphanies for her other stuff that we haven't really seen yet. One of them that we did see here affects her skill of Cobalt Light, Cobalt Light, the base effect is 120% multiplier in the video, hits 4 times against random enemies, and then it does tenacity damage to each enemy hit. For 3, that seems pretty bad, but one of the epiphanies we got to see, well, it bumped up the hits to 5 hits, it bumped up the damage as well, but each time it hit, it generated a homing laser to your hand. Not a homing laser L, which also is a different skill here, which gives you 2 afterglow that we saw, and then on Ravage moves from your graveyard back to your hand. So this one doesn't have exhaust. So she's got ways to generate exhaust versions of homing laser and non-exhaust versions of homing laser, meaning that she can do a couple great things in her kit when it comes to generating zeros and playing with zeros. She also benefits a lot from being able to move through your deck quite quickly, especially if you're generating normal homing lasers, if it ends up being the thing where those don't have exhaust for subsequent turns where your deck might get a little bit more cluttered. So being able to move through those and still gain access to generation of homing laser L's by drawing your shining cores again and using your normal homing lasers, your homing laser L's, and then doing some sort of big combo turn with a couple other characters. You probably guess all of these zeros. She's gonna work pretty nice right off the bat with someone like Cassius. So she is doing one of the most broken things that we can already do in the game, and we're already talking about, the devs have talked about, looking at characters like Tressa, who can spam zeros so many times. Some of the best characters that you can think of. Now, a couple of them I'm gonna pinpoint, and luckily for us, they're all 4 stars. And on top of that, there's gonna be an even secret hidden benefit for free-to-play players out there that you are going to have a fantastic partner for the time being that you're not even gonna have to pull for. So let's get into comparing her and using her in the likes of like a Cassius team, right? So Cassius, we know him, we love him. The 000 quest, he's gonna work super well in there. Sereniel, just from like the napkin math, is she gonna be able to generate as many zeros as someone like Tressa can do? I don't think so, possibly though, right? The Tressa Mika Cassius squad generates so many shadow daggers. If you have like a triple or quadruple shadow reload, I don't think we're gonna generate as many, but we're gonna have extra utility, bonus damage, and we're going to be able to get a ton of use out of the zeros that we do generate. Because keep in mind, if we're popping off, generate a bunch of homing laser L's with shining core, casting those, and then using death halo to return all of those. Say we just have like 3 shining cores, we dupe this twice, that generates 9 homing laser L's over the duration of our turn. You can use all 9 of those 3 times each. So great, once from the first time being in your hand, second, because they'll return back to your hand, so that's 18, and then you pop death halo, you use them all again, which is a ton of zeros. It's a crazy amount of zeros, and all of them are doing damage, tenacity breaking, and having damage benefits. So she's gonna work exceptionally well with someone like Cassius. And on top of that, Cassius also works very well with her because of Devil Dice. This is, I think, Devil Dice 4. People are starting to nickname it now, which is the draw 2, discard 2 one. That's gonna work very well with Sereniel. On top of that, because of her ability to generate, possibly in some builds, normal homing lasers from this Cobalt Light epiphany that we saw, where it's going to add a homing laser to your hand for each random enemy hit. And these do not have exhaust, so you'll get the benefit from them right away. You'll be able to move them back as well from the graveyard when you ravage, but you might not want to have them in your hand at certain spots so they don't draw cards during your second and third and fourth, right? When we're doing end game content where we're fighting big bosses that we could just have in the current event, where you're just gonna dead draw and not feel good about that. You have the ability to cycle through your deck pretty consistently and significantly with something like this version of Devil Dice. If you're building a Cassius around this team, this is gonna be pretty good. And you can even get a Divine Blessing on this version of Devil Dice to make it also a 0 cost as well. So you can use this, draw some cards, discard the homing lasers, which will then return back to your hand after you ravage the enemy with some of the other stuff that you're doing. So it's not pseudo card generation is really what we're doing, right? It turns this Devil Dice from like just filtering and card disadvantage into just actual card draw, which is kind of crazy. On top of everything else Cassius does, and on top of working exceptionally well with the likes of Pop-Eyed Popper. So on top of that, we also have a couple other fantastic supports. She's going to be busted. You probably saw this video. We're not going to dwell too much on it, but if you can make a Nia deck based around Adagio and Forbidden Eternal Hunger, she's going to work extremely well in this show as well, because, well, from what we've seen from Sereniel, she needs to cast a couple of higher cost cards. She's also going to want to just be one of those characters who can do the infinite plan with someone like Cassius, do the infinite plan and benefit off of that herself, and also maybe use something like a Mark character, or even benefit from maybe having even more card draw from someone like Veronica in your team. But Nia allows you to cycle through, get all of your cards, and cast them all every turn in a deck that has the Forbidden Eternal Hunger in conjunction with Adagio, and you'll probably want a Forbidden Eternal Hunger in one of the other, at least the other partners of the Nia Sereniel team. So if it's going to be Sereniel, look out for Forbidden Eternal Hunger when you're putting her save data together, so you can combine her with Nia. This team is going to be absolutely insane. And on top of that, there's a couple other busted things that you can do with Nia, not only just cycling through your deck and generating card draw and AP generation in that way, but she also provides some pretty significant buffs with her rhythm dance buff here, right, where we have a rhythm boost. And on top of that, she also, Secret, is one of the best damage buffers in the game if you've been working on Blue Pot, which I need to finish up doing Blue Pot. Now, the final reward for Blue Pot is pretty awesome, and it's something that we should all be working towards if we're trying to build a Nia focused deck. So the Dimensional Cube here is something that you can put on Sereniel as well. And for most teams, it's not going to really do a whole lot. When discarding a card plus 10% damage for one turn doesn't seem all of that great. But remember, we have the ability to add a bunch of cards to our hand, generate a bunch of stuff, whether it's homing laser L's or homing lasers. We can use Cassius with conjunction with Devil Dice to dump a bunch of those into the yard via actual discard. Adagio discards cards. We have the likes of a couple other things from Nia, such as like Nia's Curiosity to discard cards. And then most importantly, on top of all of that, we also have the ability to Giga buff your Sereniel using none other than Nia's actual EP skill, her ego skill. So you're going to be able to generate a ton of damage this way, because if you activate this, it discards all cards from your draw pile. It's very easy for you to cycle through your whole deck, or just get through it. You shuffle up, right? For the next turn, subsequent turn, you pop this thing off, and your deck size is going to be pretty big as you're generating homing laser L's or just normal homing lasers from something like this version of Cobalt Light. You'll be able to have a pretty sizable deck and discard like 20 plus cards with Rock and Roll, which allows you to then have a 200-something% damage buff from Nia, and then do the infinite. I'm casting all of my cards with Sereniel, casting all of my zeros, getting the 000 quest reward from Cassius, generating all of this value. And on top of the big damage bonus from the Blue Pot reward we just looked at, you also have the damage bonus from Cassius's quest reward completion, gaining 10, 11, 15, 20, however many zeros you can cast in this team. You're going to be able to cast a ton of zeros and gain a ton of morale stacks on top of that. So you're going to have the ability to buff her to obscene damage numbers with the two of these characters, and benefit from that even more than you probably are supposed to, because you're going to be able to return the cards from your graveyard or return the cards from your exhaust pile after you've set up all these damage bonuses, and then cast them again. So Nia and Cassius seem to be like incredible partners for Sereniel. You also have the ability to work with something like Selena as well. Could be a good option because you're able to break tenacity gauge so easily. You can actually turn tactical maneuver from Selena into a skill that actually allows you to reproc the Ravage state again, which can be good potentially. So this is something I'm gonna have to work on more, But here's the idea. It has Retain. If the target's in a ravaged state, it recharges your tenacity meter. That's great. Why would you want to do that though? Well, if you look at some of the cards, like being able to generate a bunch of homing lasers, there's potentially like a Selena save data as well, where you get cobalt lights that do a bunch of damage and generate normal homing lasers that can just go into your graveyard. But when you ravage something, return back to your hand and give you 2 afterglow each time you cast them, and they don't have exhaust. So what you can do with this card from Selena is generate a bunch of normal homing lasers and have a single giant giga damage turn where you generate a bunch of normal homing lasers, cast a bunch of this epiphany version of Cobalt Light, make 4, 8, 12 homing laser, dupe this card a bunch in your Selena deck, break them, reset them, break them again, get them all out of the graveyard, do all your damage, leave enough in your hand that you can re-break them again with this, potentially with Selena in your party. And that's not where this combo team ends either, because on top of tactical maneuver, we have something like high powered scope, which is pretty good. It has this epiphany. If you build Selena as a DPS, whenever another combatant uses an attack card this turn, which we're going to be doing a crap ton with both Cassius as well as Sereniel, you're going to get an extra coordinated attack with Serena too. So you're going to have like triple damage all at the same time comboing out, which is just magnificent. The high powered scope costs 0 as well. And potentially if you have enough divine blessings on people where you have card draw over and over and over, it's going to be a little bit harder to set up. But I could see Serena being a partner with either Nia or Cassius somehow to do like big wombo combo damage sort of setups that are a little bit different than we talked about prior. And you just use this character to do a bunch of damage that way. You also, in certain circumstances, if we have the ability potentially to give instinct weakness with a character, are we going to have an instinct weakness with Sereniel? Probably not. But if you take her into a boss fight that's weak to instinct, you also have this with Serena too. If you're doing a weakness attack or an attack weakness on somebody, yeah, you're going to get another follow-up coordinated attack here too. So there's a lot of potential to do some nice, just coordinated attack spam with a Serena Seleniel combo. Oh, there's one more card too. If you wanted to do the Nia thing, I almost forgot, ladies and gentlemen, this target spotted card, it can be like, it's not busted, but it's got a 2-minute draw a card on it, and then you can ditch it to something else with Cassius or something to draw more cards with Devil Dice. So it's a little, it's not busted, but it's like a little bit of synergy added there as well. I think those are going to be the 3 big characters that I'm potentially looking at using with Sereniel when she comes out, and that's awesome. There's one more thing. As a free-to-play player, you're probably looking for a partner, and I do think eventually, guys, that this partner is going to get rebalanced and nerfed. But if you're looking for a partner, do you get to use Yuri, the most broken partner in the game? Because we are a hunter character, we get to use a hunter partner. It gives a straight up attack percent increase. And on top of that, when you finally get your deck to shuffle, right, which is very easy to do with someone like Nia, Cassius in your team, you're going to get a permanent 16% damage bonus on top of that. And from what I've looked into, I think this is a multiplicative damage bonus, which makes it basically very, very strong. This partner is obtusely overpowered, and I, as a free-to-play player, don't even have to think about wanting to pull for her designated 5-star partner that's time limited. I just don't care right now. And on top of that, the EP skill draws you 2 cards for 3 EP. And it really doesn't get a lot better than that as a character, right? I was on the fence for a hot minute, but as soon as I saw this kit and saw that she is, well, guess what? Doing one of the most busted things you can do, generating and reusing your own 0-cost cards multiple times per turn, and works with the most busted supports, whether it's Nia or Cassius. You can probably get something to work with Ray as well, let's be honest here, and even bring someone like Serena to like the limelight potentially of going from like an A tier-ish support in some circumstances to being maybe God tier in the right setup with her, in the creme de la creme of, you already have one of the most busted partners for her. already maxed out because it's a 3-star. So for those reasons, this is a character that I'm actually going to pull on. The other ones were pretty decent. Chizuru and Yuki had uses. Haru was cool. Passed on them all. And our time is now. You let me know how you feel about Sereniel down below. If you're going to be pulling on her, it's going to be a little bit weird because she's coming out. I'm going to be out of town for Christmas out there. So you're not going to see me for like a couple of days probably. But it's going to give me time to work on here, come back, and I'm going to be putting out so much content on this character. Until then, guys, have a good one out there. Merry Christmas, and I'll catch you in the next one.